I didn't realize how much I was losing myself in trying to keep connections that were feeding into my loneliness. I have known grief from very early stages of my life, and losing a loved one, be it a person or an animal, through death is not easy. And that kind of sorrow has a certain permanence to it. It was only until a couple of weeks ago that I realized how that fear of abandonment and loneliness was governing the choices I'm making when it comes to people or my own interests. I had this revelation a couple of months ago that while every kind of heartbreak comes with its own essence of sadness, it is not the end of the world. When you've only known sadness as something that follows loss of someone you loved, and someone who you loved and lost, it starts to feel like every grief, that every kind of loss is that catastrophic, which it isn't. And it doesn't mean that emotions that follow a heartbreak are not valid, but just the realization that not every grief is permanent has been very liberating and has helped me heal wounds that I was refusing to bandage in the first place. I was choosing to stay friends with people who had butchered my trust very loudly, holding on to nostalgia and trying to constantly communicate basic trying to communicate for basic emotional support. And still, when the moment arrived, I would be breaking down alone in my room. And the only thought that helped me to not feel that emptiness at its absolute form was that at its absolute form was the thought that at least I had someone. And it wasn't until couple of weeks ago that I started to realize that I have started to attach a lot of worth to people's presence or absence in my life, which is not a bad thing. But when that becomes the only reason you are choosing to keep a certain connection in your life, it kind of is a disservice to yourself and to the bond as well. Strange thing is, I have been accustomed to being by myself as a kid. I loved my hobbies. I loved being by myself. I would find new ways to spend time by myself, whether it be crafting or anything. Eventually, as I tried to unconsciously run away from loneliness and heavy emotions, choosing to stay in unhealthy connections and feeding unhealthy patterns started to seem safer than being with my thoughts. But a lot has changed since I had this revelation about myself, and it took me some time, but I feel like I am returning to myself. And at first, when I was reconstructing my inner world, it was tough. For instance, if I was painting and suddenly I'd feel the dread and the loudness of silence around me, and my instant reaction was to panic. But having that clarity in my mind that I am not going to choose half hearted bonds for the sake of feeling that the void in me is filled, I have started to reclaim facets of myself I feel I lost. And that I think is a big win. I do feel scared, sad, and lonely still, but slowly my autopilot response is shifting from I need to call this XYZ person, or I need to ruminate about the times I had someone in my life in for this exact moment, to an internal that my internal self dialogue is becoming more like, okay, what can we do right now that would help us channelize this feeling that doesn't involve so and so person or situation. And that has been something that has helped me a lot. And even though I am still at the transitory phase, but I feel like I'm returning to myself. Also I'm learning that being alone doesn't mean isolating yourself from everyone, but knowing how to return to yourself every day through little things in life. So if you're someone who feels lonely or scared of being by themselves, just know it's very natural and understandable, but that it does get better. Also, that finding refuge in friendships, goals, or other external factors is not something that you have to cut off from your life just so you can learn to be alone and embrace your solitude. Being alone and seeking support can coexist, and being alone, and you kind of strengthen that resilience in you when you are by yourself by the support you get to self. So I think my final 2 cents about this whole topic that I haven't thought so much about would be that to be alone is less about not relying on others or things outside of yourself for relief, but not using them as an escape to run away from yourself. So, and that's how I feel, and I'm truly grateful to be returning to my solitude. So if you're someone who feels the same way, or you are struggling with these feelings, just know that you are not alone, and that it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to be scared of the uncertainty and not know what to do. But it does get better. And so if this resonated with you, let me know in the comment sections below, and you can use the comment section to share your experiences and connect with people who feel the same way. And I hope we all learn to embrace ourselves again. So cheers.